Larry talked to him.
Yeah, and that's what
I
I
forgot to even mention it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's not here for that topic, is she?
she was.
Oh.
I told her. And she's,
Now you can recycle it.
she's gonna, and here they come.
Remember when they're doing stock video, you gotta look like you're really intense, really into something.
Smile next to my trophy.
Smiling with your trophy?
Yeah,
Where did we get a trophy?
Shuffleboard.
shuffleboard.
Uh-huh. It was a shootout, I hear.
Yeah.
I creamed them.
Yeah, how about that?
Is that a nice run?
Don, it's nice to see you smiling so early in the evening.
You don't want money, do you?
Of course he wants money. If Don's here, he wants money.
Yeah.
You
Always.
know, it's
Always.
New piece of
that's-
equipment.
That's a given. And lots of it usually.
Okay, it's 7 PM, August 15th. We'll call the regularly scheduled meeting of Ways and Means to order, and we'll have Chairman Inman lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer,
Here.
Thomas,
Yep.
Richardson,
Here.
Lemkool,
Here.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman,
Here.
Gilman,
Here.
Please.
Present. Next item is the approval of the agenda from July,
No.
Minutes of
Approval of
July.
minutes and public comment.
or no, approval of the minutes, I mean.
So moved. Support.
Your second?
Dicky
I
Richardson.
Who made the motion?
Dicky.
Dicky did.
Dicky do.
Can Dick make the motion?
Yep.
When you weren't here, you can?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah, you
You were
weren't here.
sick.
that's
I'll
right.
make the motion.
Okay, Herbie will make the motion, seconded by Richardson.
I forgot I wasn't here.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll
Except
call
one
vote.
abstain.
Oh, yeah. Roll call.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
You're
Thomas,
gonna say here.
Abstain.
Richardson,
Yes.
Lemkool,
We're having a
Yes.
bit too much fun
Henschel,
tonight.
Inman,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Here.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Yes.
So much for.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is our first public comment. Would you read the rules for public comment, please?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Orders of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience desiring to make comment under public comment? Meta? Name and address, please, and position.
Meta Lansdale. I have the pleasure of serving as the director of the Traverse Area District Library, which is located, headquartered at 610 Woodmere. And I'm speaking in capacity of my position at the library. I know you're going to table the item for which I came this evening, but I thought I'd seize this opportunity to tell you about some very exciting developments at the library. Since January of this year, we have been working basically full-time to completely upgrade all of our technology at the library, and we're moving to RFID technology, which is radio frequency identification, and it's going to help us with inventory control, managed materials management. It's going to greatly improve our procedures in the back rooms. We circulate 1.2 million items a year, and 80% of those items are circulated from the Woodmere building, which means that it's critical to us, and that keeps increasing. We saw a 10% increase this July over last July. So it's incumbent on us to continue to sustain the high level of service we're able to provide while containing our costs, which are going up as usual, and our revenues, of course, are going down, just like every other municipality. So one approach is to use technology to capture some labor-saving opportunities. And so we are closing, the most visible thing you're going to see this month is that we're closing the Woodmere facility for the week of August 26th, and we'll reopen, that's a Sunday, and we'll reopen the day after Labor Day, September 4th. And during that time, we're going to completely redesign the lobby in order to maximize our opportunity for self-service at that library. RFID technology is going to make that a very silky smooth process for self-checkout. So what are we going to do? We're going to put in the place of the current Circ desk, which has 4 workstations at it, we're going to replace that with a huge hold shelf. And holds will be self-service. So on the day that we reopen, you can come in and find the book that you have on hold. You've gotten a notice in the email to tell you that the book is waiting for you. You're going to come in, find your name on that book, grab it, turn around, and then use the self-checkout machine to check it out, and you can go on your way. We're going to have, we've been tagging every single item in all 6 Tattle facilities this summer. So we counted that at 380,000 items, all of which need to be touched. So we have a tagging team that's been out to all 6 facilities, and we're at the Peninsula Library right now, and when they're finished this week, we'll go out and we'll finish up at East Bay Branch Library, and we'll be finished on Tuesday. They've been working since, the end of June, I think. And so all of the branch and member libraries will have the opportunity to use this self-check, the RFID technology, but it will be primarily apparent at the Woodmere Library. So we will have 7 self-check machines, 4 of them in the lobby, 1 in Sight and Sound, 1 in Youth Department, 1 on the 2nd floor. As when we got Woodmere Library completely tagged, we started introducing self-check machines kind of as a soft opening to see what the bumps were going to be. And so we had experience. I was telling Jason and Christine earlier that just Monday or Sunday this week, we had the single machine in the lobby generated more transactions than all the transactions that took place during that time in all the member and branch libraries put together. So we see a tremendous amount of, and people are virtually universally happy with this. And I totally encourage you to get in there, grab a book, get either your library card or your driver's license. Either one will work depending on what you have registered. Just a driver's license without the registration won't work. But just put it in there, show it to the red laser beam, and set a stack of 3 or 4 items on the pad, and it will check them all out. Bim, 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 bim. You press done, you're done, you get a receipt, and you're out the door. So we're very excited about this. I hope you'll come and look at it, and I'll give you a cook's tour if you like. Any questions? All right.
Thank you, Meta.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Robinson. I'm treasurer of the Interlochen Public Library. I live at 5898 Sylvan Lane in Interlochen. This is very short, but I'd like to applaud you county commissioners for your effort in trying to find a solution to a more balanced representation on the district library board. I thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
Is there any other public comment? Mark?
Mark McKellar, Chairman, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Have a number of things. I'm going to try to make it very brief. Wanted to bring a kind of a synopsis to the board of the last 17 months to Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Starting at kind of the beginning in terms of our upper management level, we replaced our foreman about 6 weeks ago due to retirement of a long-serving foreman. We have a new engineer as a result of the engineer currently taking a position as a manager outside of our county. And we're in the process of replacing our administrator as a result of the non-renewal of the contract. Brings me up to the current period. We really want to thank the board for approving Jen Seaman to work with the Road Commission. It's a level of professionalism that we appreciate. She's made this transition, this process, extremely smooth. And right now, as we speak, we currently are starting to receive applicants. The other item that I'd like to discuss, or just bring you up to speed with about, is that the report that you receive every month from the Road Commission, we want to revamp. What I've seen in the last 12 months or so is that report reflects minutes of our board meetings, minutes which have not been approved yet by our board. Therefore, there are inaccuracies in those. And so what we're going to try to do is change the format so this board gets action items and also projects that we're currently working on and financials to give you an idea of our financial position, what projects we are completing, what projects we are going to undertake, and action items pertaining to relevant matters of the board. Frankly, no more he said, they said, she said, none of that. I don't think you have much interest in that anyways, and if you really want to, you can go look at the video. So we're going to be looking at re-engineering those. And we're also, in doing that, we'll be re-engineering the way we record our minutes for the record. One of the vital things that we undertook this last year is our board policies. We found our board policies to be missing quite a few key elements. So we've taken a liberty with our recent hires of our attorneys, and we are reviewing your board policies. And I want to thank you for all the hard work you did on that, because I think we're probably going to use most of it. Okay? We just have to tailor it to our organization. And lastly, last month I had the opportunity to read into the record the audit report from our auditor concerning the special audit on the per diems, and they report that there was no discrepancies, no errors. There were a few things that they made recommendations. We then rewrote our policy on per diems and mileage and our attendance at meetings, and we adopted that policy as recommended by our attorney. And again, we want to thank the county, because they also had the county attorney, Bob Cooney, look at that and give us his legal opinion, and he made a couple of suggestions as well. So that, we're past that, we're on to business, and we're looking to the future. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Excuse me.
Anybody else? I see we have a couple supervisors in the group tonight, and a little birdie said that they may be here, but they wasn't quite sure of the mission. So is there something you guys would like to speak to, maybe in public comment, or would you like the agenda amended?
Dick is going to amend the agenda. Dick Thomas.
Dick is?
Yes.
Okay. You're off the hook, boys. Presently. Okay. Next item's approval of the agenda. We do have some additions, and I'll start it out with page 64. We want to add the Airport Commission on there. They've had a recent resignation. And let's see.
Want to,
Yeah,
yeah, Mr. Chairman, if we can remove item under administration, item number 9D, and that would be item number 3, proposed library board modifications. If we could remove that and defer that to our board meeting for next Wednesday, not Wednesday, the last Wednesday of the month.
okay.
Mayor Estes would like to attend that meeting and give his perspective on the communication we've had during our ad hoc committee meetings. And so I said I would do the courtesy of trying to get him in attendance prior to any discussion and motion on our board level. So we just need to notify him when our board meeting is and date and time.
Does anybody have any objections to that deferral?
Need a
Okay.
second?
We can wait until we're done, I think.
All right.
Do it all in one motion. Okay, Dick?
I'd like to add to new business, the septic facility, special assessment.
That'd be
Are there any other changes? I'd be open for a
Move
motion.
to approve the agenda as amended.
support.
Been moved and supported to approve the agenda as changed. Ross?
Jack, what are you proposing on the septic facility?
I'll explain it to you.
I mean, are we going to,
I'm not going to propose anything, I'm asking for something.
okay.
Are you all set, Ross?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Any other discussion or debate? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Next item is the consent calendar, and would you read that, please?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, correspondence regarding Cass Road Crossing and Boardman Dam removal. 2, Resource Recovery Manager's Report. 3, Conservation District Activity Report for July 2012. 4, Grand Traverse Conservation District Friends of the Conservation District Program. Number 5, Road Commission Monthly Report.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience desiring any of the items to be pulled? Chuck?
Item number 1.
Sure. Any other items from the audience? Board? 4? Okay, items 1 and 4 are to be removed, and we'll put them under items removed from the consent calendar. Ross?
I move for approval of the consent calendar with items 1 and 4 removed.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Yes.
Lemkool?
Yep.
Henschel?
Yes.
Edmund?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Okay, we'll go to items removed from the consent calendar. Number 1, removed by Supervisor Korn from Garfield Township. Would you come forward, please?
Good evening, Chuck Korn, Garfield Township. I asked to remove it because I noticed that this is supposed to be non-controversial items, and I thought it was sort of a controversial item, that in fact, maybe Cass Street's not the best place for the bridge. So I'd love to hear your opinions.
I've been saying for 25 years they don't even need a bridge. All they got to do is go down the railroad and come out on Rennie School Road.
Very good.
Herb?
Well, I think that this is just one opinion, and, I think we encourage anybody that has an opinion about any of the dams and the projects that are coming on, that we expect that they would put their opinion in. We appreciate all that. I'm sure this is going to be vetted in many different discussions along the way. I know the Road Commission has got some money into this already that are set aside for the bridge, and, I'm not sure where all the discussions are going to be. I do think that, whether it's a Road Commission discussion, whether it's a County Commission discussion, or whether it's a dams discussion, or it could be all three, and in particular, the townships. That's 4 different arenas that we should have discussions as to what's going to happen. This is probably 5 years away, probably.
Pretty close.
Pretty close that we're going to have that, and so it's going to make a, and I would encourage anybody that has an opinion about this to make sure that we get those opinions in and have them be heard here.
I agree and move to receive and file the correspondence regarding Cass Road crossing and Boardman Dam removal.
Second.
Who seconded?
Me.
Okay. Jason?
I was just curious, do you have an opinion that about it that
It
makes
seems
it
a little odd to have the crossover that high.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, you cross over that high if there's no dam there.
Right.
Got it.
I guess,
Ross?
but what they're talking about actually is the river channel being relocated. So the 100-foot span is actually to the west of the current bridge, right?
Right. But that the bridge should be off the end of Cass Road rather than anywhere else on the river.
What's that now?
They're saying that the bridge should be
Within the existing corridor?
right.
Okay, and you don't think it should be?
Yeah. I think there's a greater need farther down, or, as Dick says, just drive down the railroad tracks.
Sonny?
Well, my point was simply this was on the consent calendar to receive and file. It wasn't an action item. So when I read it, I read the opinion like I would any other opinion letters that I get, emails that I get, and I received it and filed it. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would entertain the motion.
We have it.
Oh, we already have it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item removed was number 4, Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, as your liaison to the Conservation District, I think it's important that I bring this about, that this is a mission that the Conservation District is putting out to find out all the friends that they have for the Conservation District. And you can be a friend of the Conservation District for $25. So we encourage everybody to let them know, make a gift or a check to them, and become a friend of the Conservation District, in particular the Nature Education Reserve. There's a lot of things that are going on. Boardman River Stewardship, the Parklands Management, the Nature Education, Sustainable Agriculture, Boardman River Nature Center, all these are all part of the Conservation District, and there's many, many things that they are doing, and this is an opportunity for us to get funding for them so that they can have sustainability into the future. So I encourage everybody to become friends of the Conservation District.
They could be my friend for 25 bucks.
Move to file.
Or
You sure? Rob?
Just a quick question, Herb. Does that $25 go to a specific fund? Is it like an endowment, or is it just general fund?
General fund.
Okay.
So you'll get special registration, special discounts, a friendship card, recognition in your annual report, subscription to our newsletters, and satisfaction of knowing you are making a difference.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Been moved and supported to receive and file number 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is Panasonic Toughbook computers for the Sheriff's Office, page 24 in your packet, and I see we have Don here to do the presentation.
These are replacement computers for the Sheriff's Department, and they were in the budget. And actually, after I did the recommendation, they have more than 9 that are 5 years old, and we could add 1 more here and still stay within the budget and move it up to 10. And I did recommend a local vendor, and that was based on purchasing policy that would provide a 5% preference. So that was the recommendation.
So what's the new number?
The new number would come out to $29,671.20.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Sonny?
The only question is, are we going to be able to reuse the laptops that we're replacing? What are we doing with those?
We will probably look, I'm not sure if there's a used market for them, but I'm not sure. I think they're at least 6 years old, and I mean, they're barely functioning as it is. I think that, and Nate's here, but I believe you're actually looking to see if you can't find some money to replace about 3 or 4 other ones this year that are in that same category.
Spare parts.
why are they barely functioning?
Just 6-year-old machines. They're out in the cars. They take a beating. They're running XP. They don't have a lot of memory on them. And since we moved to the new world, they're out there doing field reporting, and just, we're loading up more applications all the time on top of them.
They do work with the New World software, though?
They do.
Okay.
Rob?
Just so for people that aren't as tech savvy, a Toughbook is a very specific type of laptop. I mean, these things are built to be just pounded on, and I would imagine there's some kind of market, even if it's a couple $100. People, especially techies, love Toughbooks, and they usually can't afford them new. So, I mean, some enthusiasts might really be interested. I encourage you to take a look around, maybe even, eBay or something, if we can recoup some of the expense out of them, because they're expensive units.
Jason?
Given the sensitive nature of what might be on the hard drives, of course, you would be removing the hard drives before you'd sell the books.
Well, we have software it's this white drive software that follows federal standards for clearing the disk. So, I mean, we would leave the drives in, but they would be completely white before they left. We do that with any machine that anyone uses at the county.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Herb?
Yeah, you were mentioning something about that you got some more that needs to be replaced, and you're looking for money to do that. Is this a time to be buying these things additionally and then try and figure out where the money is later? I just hate to buy 10 and then figure out that we should have bought 3 more. And, just because something may not be in the budget, we do have some money that, or you may have some in your budget to be able to get to where we need to be.
We have the undersheriff here.
Good evening, Nate Alger. We do have a replacement cycle for these. We are several months into this year's budget already, so by the time these Toughbooks are purchased, in place, and ready to go, it'll be at least a month or better. And by the time next year's budget cycle runs around, we'll be asking for additional replacement Toughbooks of older models. We are going to be asking IT to I guess, strip down and revamp some of these older Tough books so that we can use them as replacements as Tough books are being repaired. It's an inconvenience for the officers to be without those books for a while Sheila or IT works on them and gets them back up and running. So we will be auctioning the spare, requesting to auction the spares off on our auction site.
Thank you. Any other questions? Been moved and supported to purchase 10 of these from the local vendor, Telrad, in the amount of $29,671. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
That was really cheap for you, John. I suppose.
We can't wait.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Health Department authorization to solicit bids and purchase fleet vehicles for environmental health prior to the State of Michigan contract year ending September 30th, 2012. Dean?
Jerry Pugh asked me to pinch hit for him tonight as he is on a much-deserved vacation. He has analyzed several of his programs, and basically what we're doing here, I'm sure you don't want me to walk you through the revenue and expenditure analysis, but the bottom line is we have revenues are coming in food service, private water, and on-site sewer programs at a rate greater than we budgeted and higher than the prior year. We have a situation where the program income in those three programs exceeds program expenditures. And with that situation, we don't recover state grant funds like we normally would. So if we can increase the program expenditures, we can utilize or receive those state grant funds. So what we're asking here is for consideration to solicit bids for up to 2 vehicles to remedy that situation.
Jason?
I'd like to say something. I mean, I think that, I'm not sure of the necessity for the new vehicles, but I think we're overcharging our local businesses if we have excess revenues for these particular services that we provide. When we're coming out, for example, in the food service program, we have excess revenues of nearly 10 grand. Our fees are too much, period. We're charging our constituents too much money. And there are other examples in here. I don't think that to chase a grant, we ought to be, using the money other than let our people keep them, keep the revenues in the first place, or keep their fees low.
Larry?
I guess I would come at it from a slightly different perspective, and that is if we have justified the fee cost and we're just getting more activity, which it appears that's the premise behind the memo, then it would generate more revenue. And hopefully the whole basis of our estimates for 2013 and 2014 are that optimistic, where we're seeing more activity instead of less activity, and where we can get to a situation where we're not laying individuals off. But that being said, I guess the bottom line for me on this issue is if we truly need, if the vehicles are in a state of multiple repairs, they're aged, it's time to replace them anyways, and we have an opportunity to do it, then now would be the time to do it. And I guess that would be the question I would have for whoever would want to answer that question.
I'll take a stab at that. I mean, in the first paragraph, I did discuss this with Jerry. We still have life in those vehicles, but at some point in time, we have to replace the fleet. This is the perfect opportunity, in my opinion, to use these excess revenues to do that. If we don't do that, we build them into the subsequent year's budget. This fund is supported by a general fund appropriation of about $1.3 million, and anything we can do to maintain or improve the financial position in the health fund benefits the county general fund.
Rob?
So if my understanding is right, we have a 15% excess based on the fees that we've collected for permits and whatnot. Are we going to see a recommendation to lower fees by 15% in the future?
I do not know the answer to that question. I do not know.
A number of years ago, we had talked about energy-efficient automobiles, and the Health Department had taken the lead on some of that stuff. And, I guess that would be my input, is that we would continue to look toward some sort of energy-efficient vehicle to show the community how well it works and whether or not there's any savings. And I think the Health Department did that, but I can't remember for sure.
They did. One of the newer vehicles is a hybrid Escape, but that's probably been a couple of years ago.
I just wonder how that turned out, and is there any savings? Is it worth our while to continue in that direction, is my question.
Well, Jerry had sent me an email today analyzing the cost associated with one of our Saturns. I did not have a chance to look at that, but he was concerned because our cost per mile with the older vehicles is higher than if you are looking at a newer, lower cost, more fuel efficient vehicle. That was the general impression that I got from reading his email without looking at the numbers.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve that they go out for bids, and I would encourage that they look at energy-efficient vehicles.
Support.
Sonny? Well, I guess I was a little confused when I read this. I was trying to determine whether we're looking at buying vehicles because we have the money, or if we're looking at buying vehicles because we need the vehicles. And I wasn't sure I really had a handle on which way that was.
Well, I would think the answer is both. I mean, we do need to replace the vehicles, but this excess revenue, program income in these programs, gives us the opportunity to increase the expenditure side of the budget to realize additional state grant funds that we would otherwise have to we would lose.
This excess revenue, is this accumulated funds, or is this funds that were just received in 2013?
It's this current budget year that we're in.
That's why I wasn't sure whether some of that was accumulated.
Yeah, in an economic downturn, you wouldn't budget a high level of, new permits. It turns out there's a little bit more activity than they originally intended, and what happens in a state grant like this is the state just subtracts your revenue off and says, we're not going to, you're going to use that to offset your expenditures. We're only going to reimburse up to a certain amount, and the more you get, we'll just offset it, unless you spend it, of course, and then we'll contribute the full amount that we promised.
Well, that's fine, and I understand that part. The one thing that I was going to mention is if it was strictly a matter that we needed the vehicles, I believe in our construction code department, we have excess vehicles that we're not using since the layoff of various inspectors. So, if we need a pickup for the well and septic guy to use, the county owns a vehicle that's, 50 feet away. We should be able to use that.
The only caution with that, Commissioner, is those vehicles are getting up there in years.
I understand. But I'm just saying, if it's simply a matter we need a vehicle, we have a vehicle that we could use short term, so.
Jason?
Well, I go back to, as far as needing vehicles, as far as needing to replace vehicles, maybe we should look at it a little differently. Maybe we don't need to replace those vehicles, and maybe we start looking at the mileage option and paying people for the miles they put on their own vehicles. Frankly, I think, we have a maintenance issue that we have to deal with year to year. Then we worry about whether or not we're going to be replacing a vehicle, even if the cost is low because we're using money that would be shoveled away into a different direction. We're also buying a liability. So I would say that we need to look forward, and we need to look at lowering. We need to have the health department look at the fee structure, and maybe they're charging too much. And I think that we shouldn't get involved with buying more stuff. We should try to slim down what we have and reduce our liabilities.
Chris?
Approximately how many miles per year do we put on these vehicles?
I don't know.
Don't know. Can't answer that today.
Dick?
I would say that the need for a pickup truck over a car is quite necessary in the water and sewage part of it, because they have to get in places where, sometimes they're under construction, they have to drive in through mud and everything else, so, if we look at it, the pickup truck part of it, I think, and they get better gas mileage than they used to, but I think that's something we've got to look at, because I think they should have a truck for that.
The comment I would have would be the 2013 automobiles and trucks are presently available for purchase, which would mean the 2000 Ranger in 12 more years is eligible for historic plates. I don't think that puts us in a good position. Plus, the older the vehicle, presently my vehicle is a 2000, hits 153,000 the other day, and just like magic, the shock absorber companies must have it figured out. I need new shock absorbers. I thought I was in a boat. But anyway, I think I would definitely support a motion to purchase the two vehicles.
You got me.
Ready to go.
Chris?
Dean, I'm going to support this because of your recommendation, but I would in the future appreciate if, when we're looking at vehicles, if I could at least know how many miles we're putting on the vehicles that we're purchasing.
That is a fair request.
Thank you.
Ross?
And of course, the motion, all we're doing is authorizing the seeking of bids at this
Yes.
point. So we have not authorized the purchase yet. So we have time to get that information.
Any more questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Dean. Next item is, let's see, Mr. Bott again.
It's our general fund information through 7 months, July 31st, 2012. The trial balance really probably would just bore you if you stare at that too long, but the next 2 pages do kind of explain the variances in the revenues and the expenditures, and there are, as you'll see on, I don't have page numbers on mine, but on the revenue analysis, some significant variances. Tax revenue, I always like to mention a few, or make a few comments about our tax revenue. Our MTT and tax refunds are lower this year through 7 months than they were a year ago, so that activity has slowed down, but that doesn't mean that there's more exposure out there, because there definitely is. We're about 42,000 lower with that situation versus a year ago. And then there's a slight increase in the IFT, but the balance of that difference is the fact that the collections in the month of July this year were lower or less than they were last July. Very happy to report that some of the charges for services revenues are tracking better this year. The jail housing fees are actually up over what they were a year ago. The Register of Deeds recording fees are up 63,000. That's a good sign that there's some activity out there in terms of real estate turning over. And the telephone surcharge, that 911 number, don't let that fool you. That's just a timing difference. That's the third quarter last year was received on August 2nd. The third quarter this year came in the last day of July. So that can cause a big swing in the numbers, but it's strictly timing. And then the transfers are lower budgeted amounts this year from the tax revolving fund. So nothing out of line with the budget at this point, just most of these, well, with the exception of the charges for services revenues. Those are very favorable variances at this time. On the expenditure side, most of the differences that you see in the column, the far right column, are due to budget changes. General government, obviously a big Part of that difference is the facilities management personnel going to contracted services, equalization personnel, the staffing FTE counts there have been down. We're not at full staff in equalization. Obviously, we were without a county administrator for a period of time, so that's in that function as well. And then the MSU extension FTEs are down based on a budgeted reduction. So that's the big variance there, which is all within budget. The transfers out, the $2.4 million variance, are timing. We simply did not record the third quarter transfers in July this year versus they were recorded in July a year ago. So nothing out of line with the budget at this point.
Dean, can I ask, I noticed the facilities personnel budget is a savings of $205,283. Does that reflect the unemployment that was paid to the custodial staff that was?
No, it does not at this point. We're a reimbursing employer. Those invoices come in on a quarterly basis, but we're not invoiced for that until January of 2013.
Because in order to really see what kind of savings we have to include that number into that calculation. Although we all know that that's not a forever cost.
We are incurring unemployment costs for those individuals.
Any other questions of Dean regarding that? Next item is budget adjustments, Dean.
I didn't know if, I will explain probably the larger one, which is in, on the last page, Fund 472. There are a number of projects that we're paying for out of the Capital Improvement Fund, some of which were actually budgeted and approved in 2011, but the work is carrying over into 2012. Obviously, the first item listed there, the Chevy Tahoe, was approved for purchase earlier this year. I just did not bring the budget amendment back to the board because I was trying to include the other adjustments as well. The contract services line item is a PSIC grant, which is a 911 equipment upgrade that was approved last year. The budget amendment was actually made, but no funds were expended, so it's carrying over to this year. And then the New World Public Safety Records Management, this is a project that has been covered a couple of years, and we're hoping that that is completed this year. These amounts are within budget, the budgets that were established for the projects, and the balance of the adjustment is for the district court imaging project that was approved last year as well. Obviously, we're budgeting fund balance here to cover those line items, but this is all within what was budgeted in that fund. I thought that one warranted some explanation. I'd ask for your approval.
Dick?
This Duck Lake level, looking at that budget, did Kevin make that budget up?
Yes, he did.
Now, he's going to have a special assessment district starting this year, and it's going to be $10,504 for 1 year. As far as I'm concerned, this is just a bunch of numbers, because you know, for what was it we had to we wrote off the books, what, 2 years ago? It was about 13,000, was it?
That is correct. Those expenditures were incurred a long time before that, and the special assessment district had never been set up to recover.
The district can't cover that.
Not at this point.
No, well, but that was $13,000 plus the little bit they had left over when the dam was built, which took 50 years to do, and now he wants 10,500 in 1 year. And yeah, I see some repair coming up on that dam, but you know, to me, this just looks like he wants to build a slush fund.
Well, no funds have been expended at this point, but this was a budget that was prepared by Kevin.
I realize that, but to me, it's yes, we got some repairs coming up within 3 or 4 years, but by that time, he'll have $50,000 in there.
I'm not sure what you would want me to do in this case.
Hold it and have them come in.
Ross?
We're buying a copy machine?
Oh, that would be copy machine charges related to documents that have to be prepared. Probably mailings to property owners, so they're aware of the establishment of a special assessment district.
Yeah, but
No funds have been expended at this point in time, other than some work that has been done by our GIS department. I can take another look at this.
just so everybody understands, he can establish that special assessment district on his own. He can do that at any lake or drain that he controls.
There was actually a board resolution authorizing $10,000 to be set up as a revolving fund for the purpose of having working capital to cover these expenses while the special assessment was done last year.
I can see that, but to me, these are just numbers.
I'm just looking at this $5,000 in attorney fees, and is that to help cover the assessment that he's building? I mean, it seems to me that...
Ross?
How many homeowners are involved here?
Quite a bunch. Actually, he was talking in the terms of maybe $13 a year, because it gets all the lake frontage owners, plus those who have access. In other words, if you live in the back lot in a subdivision, you pay a different rate. And that's the way it was when it was set up before, and I hate to tell you, I remember that, and that was 1959.
Sonny?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the budget adjustments with the exception of the Duck Lake Dam issue, and I'd like to have more explanation by the Drain Commissioner as to that budget.
Support.
Any more discussion? Everybody understand the motion? It would be to approve the budget adjustments with the exception of the Duck Lake level budget. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous. Number 3 is the resolution for refunding bonds. Dean?
This is an item that we have discussed, it was probably 2 months ago, but we're in the process or looking at bonds that we could potentially refund for savings. This involves a series of bonds that were issued in 2003 for projects in Acme, East Bay, and Peninsula Townships. The attached resolution is the legal document or resolution that would have to be approved by the county board to issue those refunding bonds. Acme is actually going to call their portion of the outstanding balance. So the refunding bonds then would be repaid by East Bay and Peninsula Townships, and I believe East Bay Township has actually approved their resolution last night, Monday night, and Peninsula may have as well. So I'm asking for your authorization to issue refunding bonds not to exceed $3.3 million.
Move for approval.
Support.
Ross?
Dean, do we have any current estimates on how much money will be saved to the refunding?
Until we actually sell the bonds, it's, you know, I don't know for sure what those numbers are, but John Axe does have some estimates of what those would be, and Bill Rokas probably would have those as well. I can provide that to you. I don't have it with me tonight.
Okay.
But that is one of the reasons when we looked at this, I believe it was 2 months ago, we were anticipating that there would be, does anybody remember? I thought it was 300,000.
It was significant.
Yeah, it was I'll send that information out to all of you tomorrow. But there were present value savings, and that's why we are asking you to do this.
I'm open for a motion.
We have one.
Oh, we have. Who made the motion?
Larry.
I supported.
Okay. I must have fell asleep. Okay, all in favor?
Would you read it, please? I wasn't in the room.
Okay.
Would you read the motion?
The motion is to authorize the issue of refunding bonds not to exceed $3.3 million.
For East Bay Township.
East Bay and Peninsula Township sewer and water projects.
All right.
Page 37.
I didn't know that was a motion.
Okay, everybody all set? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Motion's unanimous. Next item would be corrective action plan for the 2011 audit report, page 53.
Based on our audit submission for 2011, the state reviews that document and they send us a letter. It comes back to the chief financial officer and they indicate what items that they're seeing that are exceptions or violations of state law. If you look at the letter that's attached dated July 12th, the first item, 03, is actual expenditures exceeded the amounts authorized in the budget. We had that same comment a year ago because we had two functional items within our overall budget that were over budget. You know, if budgeting were an exact science, I would tell you that this would never happen, but I can't tell you that, and that's my response to the state as well. We certainly don't want to have situations where, you know, we overspend a budget. It's not necessarily a line item because this is done based on the functional level, but we did have two situations where that occurred. The other two items, 12 and 18, there were two items that were listed as reported or repeated deficiencies. One was due to the timely filing of our 4D reimbursement reports in the prosecuting attorney's office and the friend of the court, and I want to be clear that this was not due to our county departments or the finance department. It was the third-party contract vendor that we used to prepare those reports and submit. In discussing that matter with them, they indicated that a lot of the problem with filing those reports on time is the software. We're on an eGram state system, and that they don't have all the bugs worked out of that. So so far this year, we are filing those reports on time. But for 2010 and 2011, we were not able to file those reports on time. And then 18 lists some other deficiencies that they consider to be significant or items that we need to at least address. And usually what happens, I do prepare the response. The response is attached. I try to keep it as simple as possible. The auditors, when they come back to do the 2012 audit, they will review this and these findings to make sure that we've issued some kind of corrective action plan, and that's why this is called a corrective action plan. They want to make sure that we take it seriously and that we address the issues. But if you look at the response that I made, I'm going to go through these real quick. We had two budget variances in the 2011 audit report, and in my opinion, that's pretty darn good. But I do explain that, you know, we'll continue to improve our year-end reviews, and, you know, we try to be conservative in the estimates of where, and these are on the expenditure side of the budget. They're not revenue variances, they're expenditure items that have gone over budget, and we can take additional steps to make sure that we project what those expenditures will be, and hopefully we can avoid this comment in the future. The next item concerned payroll costs, payroll expenditures charged against some federal grants. We have actually corrected that while the auditors were here. They were not in agreement with how we were charging an FTE in our health department. We have since changed that to their satisfaction. The timeliness of reporting, again, is the 4D reimbursement reports. I'm working with our vendor, which is MGT, And we are, they're aware of this. For the last 3 months, we filed all the reports on time, and that's the plan going forward. The next item on the second page, page 57, management of the county is responsible to make sure that all the material transactions are recorded in our accounting records when the auditors come in. There are just a few places where we're recording some transactions here that the pavilions needs to pick up on their records, and we need to do a better job of working with the finance folks over there to make sure that what we're doing here is recorded on their end, and we're already taking steps to do that. So the brownfield account reconciliation, we actually had the documentation to support the account balances, but it wasn't in one central location, and it wasn't easy for the auditors to determine how those account balances or recorded balances were recorded. So we're trying to get all of that documentation in one readily accessible, easy to find location. The district court and friend of the court bank reconciliations, we've made those changes already. And then there were some comments regarding review of the pavilion's journal entries, payroll time cards, and their review and approval of payroll. And John Jacobs, the finance director, has provided his written response to those comments, and I am in concurrence with what he has said he would do to correct those. So at this point in time, I have not received any notice back from the state. It's pretty much a wait and see. I don't anticipate to have any problem with our response, and the auditors will make sure that we're doing what we told the state that we would do. Are there any questions? I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions of Dean? Ross?
The two incidences where the expenditures exceeded the amounts authorized, I mean, was that a situation where, I mean, we would have had to anticipate with a budget adjustment before it happened or something, or?
I know that one of those, Commissioner, was our OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. That's the amount that we pay on behalf of our retirees. Because of some adjustments that we're not able to record until we are very close to having the books closed, which is the last week of January. We have to allocate interest to those cost centers. We just need to do a better job of estimating what that adjustment is so that we have the, a sufficient amount appropriated to cover it. I can't remember where the other line item was, but again, it's a case where we really need to estimate what those January invoices or expenditures might be. And that has to be done in December because we can't make amendments to the budget after December 31st. So it's a case of really looking at all of those functional areas in the budget to make sure that the appropriations are sufficient to cover.
I take it we weren't talking about a lot of money in either case.
No, they were not. These were not significant variances. They can be over by $1, and granted, we were over by more than $1, but we didn't miss the mark by a lot either.
Any other questions of Dean? Thank you, Dean. Next item on the agenda. Dean, you don't require an approval on that, do you?
No, I just wanted to...
It's for our information.
We had, just so everyone knows, the information that was on your desk, Chris had emailed that to you. That was on June 29th. I wanted you to be aware of the issues. But no, we have generally responded to the state because of the time requirement. We have 30 days, but then we do report back to the board, so you're aware that we have at least responded to the comments.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is administration proposal to provide a stipend for the Deputy Equalization Director position, page 59 in your packet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Equalization Director and our Finance Director and Human Resources Director conducted interviews a few weeks ago, and we had one level 4 assessor as far as I could tell, In the group, we had some wannabes, but we also, we only had one really, somebody who'd already gotten their level 4 assessor certification. He happens to be a very highly qualified individual, but that's not the reason I come to you with this request. As we were looking at this, we realized that in our county, it requires a level 4 assessor. They're very hard to find, very in great scarcity here in the state of Michigan, and the process is likened to getting a PhD in assessing. You kind of have to go through, and I guess they've changed it since I've come back into the county government, but it was strenuous before, and it's just as bad or worse now. Tougher and more expensive. So we thought that we also have 2 appraiser positions, an appraiser 1 and appraiser 2 position. If you have a level 2 and you go to a level 3, you move from the appraiser 1 position to the appraiser 2 position with an increase in salary. With the deputy director position, there's a requirement that it be a level 3, but there's no provision for any kind of increase for going to a level 4. And in our case, we seriously need a level 4, or someone who is on the verge of a level 4, and not somebody who's just been talking about it for the last 10 years. We need somebody who's that close. And
if you hire someone that's ready to go into the program, it's going to take almost 2 years to get it, if they pass every single thing.
yeah,
A lot of them aren't, half of them are funny.
so we thought that providing an additional $5,000 stipend for a level 4 certification on top of the deputy director's salary would be a wise thing for us to do as a matter of policy, not just as because we need this person and we think that this is the right person at the right time for Grand Traverse County. And he certainly is. He comes out of Kent County, Kentwood.
Kentwood is the deputy assessor there.
And he's...
Bob, you need to come up to the table.
I don't want to talk too much. My administrator is doing a good job here.
Well, thank you, Bob.
Would you state your name, Bob, and your position, please?
My name is Bob Vandermark. I'm the Equalization Director for Grand Traverse County.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
And Bob,
Now, would you answer the same question you were answering before?
Now I lost my train of thought.
you were telling us all about our new...
Cost and training and
The cost of training
challenge
is
and
very
difficulty.
expensive, and one thing I got to be very honest with people. The pay levels for level 4s and even 3s around the state and even locally is a lot higher than we're paid. And if we want to get and keep people, we got to at least get at the bottom edge. And we're not there, even with a stipend. I just got, in fact, I got it right here in my pocket. It just came in the mail today. I got an offer that's been sent to every level 4 in Michigan. Their request to apply for a job. The pay range is $86,500 to $107,300.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's the reality, and they're going to have a hard time finding somebody that's from a nice community. That's pretty typical. The mid-range for those is right around, the bottom range is about $80,000 for level 4. This gentleman here, even with a stipend, will be coming in for about $61,000.
Jesus.
65.
Now, he does know that I'm 71 years old, and I'm probably not going to stay here forever. And he wants to live in the northern part of the state, loves the Traverse City area. Those things, I think, are factors. I also think it's very unwise for the county not to have at least 2 level 4s on board in the department. It puts you in a position where you can't perform or meet minimum state requirements. And frankly, our staff level now is down to, I'm really worried that we're going to be able to actually equalize this year. We're down to 3 people working on equalization. And that's also a factor in here. Whether these people come here, what's very important to them is it's not just the pay, it's the support for the department and the ability to actually function professionally. And we're pretty close to not being able to demonstrate that. In fact, we are. I think a lot of you know that my interim deputy resigned, went to Garfield Township for a $6,000 pay raise. She's only level 2. Capable lady, I wish she was still here. But that's what's happening in our department. And we have to move some of these pay levels up enough to actually keep people working for us. And that is a serious problem. And the staff level and the staffing structure to allow us to perform the function is just as important as the pay level in attracting people. So, I mean, I don't want to have this detailed discussion of that today, but this stipend is necessary if we're going to have the right people in place so that you folks aren't left in the lurch hanging hurt.
Chris?
I know that Garfield Township, when they looked for their assessor, set a salary level above the supervisor's salary. Level 4s are indeed extremely difficult to get. I did hear at last night's Garfield Township meeting that they hired away one of our county employees, and it was, they offered more money.
They offered more money, and I can honestly say that if I were her, I would have made the move professionally. And it hurts me to say that.
And I understand that we need to increase the pay for this position. So I would make the motion that the county board approve the $5,000 stipend for the position of Deputy Equalization Director.
I'll support, and just say that I wish I'd have stayed in the business.
Yeah, I wasn't smart enough to get out. Pardon me. I'm kidding, Richard.
Don't we have a policy within our organization someplace that if we can't hire somebody at a certain level, that we have the opportunity to raise that rate? If I remember correctly, when we were looking at an IT director, that we were looking at increasing that rate dramatically so that we could match the pay for what was in the market. And this is one of the reasons why that when we did our wage study, that we knew we were out of line in a lot of different areas. But once we open that door, Pandora's box becomes wide open.
Sure.
And I'm really concerned about, when we start, we always talked about as long as we weren't losing employees, we were going to be okay. But once we start losing employees to other people in the rest of the community, then we were going to be in trouble, and we were going to have to start making some hard and fast decisions about pay scales within our county.
I mean, we actually are losing employees that wish they could stay.
I think Commissioner Lemko, I think that's why this is actually a good way to approach it, because it doesn't necessarily change the requirements for the job, but it does reward that very beneficial aspect of a level 4 assessor. So I think this is definitely a good way to do this.
For what it's worth, one of the reasons this has become expensive and people are hard to get and all that is the tax system and the assessing requirements have become much more difficult and complex. In my opinion, more than they had to, but be that as may, here we are.
Everybody understand the motion? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's unanimous.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Bob.
I apologize for not identifying myself.
We'll excuse you this time.
All right.
And we won't tell Mr. Benda.
Please don't steal our next guy.
Okay, the next item is boards and committees update, page 64. And what we have going on there is the list that you're looking at that's provided, with the exception of the road commission, that won't be a purview of the ad hoc committee for appointees. That'll be a whole board rule that we made, I don't know, a couple, 3 years ago. And Chris is presently working on soliciting people for these positions, like Commission on Aging, for example. We're going to have 4. The one we were adding tonight is,
Airport.
yeah, Airport Commission, because they had a recent resignation, so.
On the resignation for the airport, do we have to go through and do that immediately? These others are waiting, and I would think that we might want to have the ad hoc committee at least come together to take interviews for candidates for the airport commission.
I think she is suggesting, Mr. Chairman, if I can speak, I think she's suggesting that we set up an ad hoc committee for the Parks and Rec, Resource Recovery, and Airport Commission right away, and then we'll fill another ad hoc committee as these applicants come in the near future. Is that your understanding?
We do have,
We have applications for the two of them, but we need to have the Airport Commission.
I know somebody who's been trying to figure out how to get on.
And we have two apps from the previous interview for the Airport Commission.
yeah, and we have one gentleman that was really well qualified. In fact, the committee told him to keep his application in file, and Chris has stayed in contact with him, and she did talk to him, and he is very interested, so. Chris?
I would like to be a member of the ad hoc on the two boards that I sit on, Commission on Aging and Parks and Rec. When we form our ad hoc.
The way I understood it, we were going to appoint a new ad hoc committee for all these, is that correct? Except for the road commission. So you're volunteering?
Yeah.
I would volunteer. Jason and Larry, I guess. Let's see, is that too many?
That's too many.
That's too many, we gotta have one left.
The only reason I would be interested is the Airport Commission meeting, otherwise someone else can have all that, the rest of them.
The only two I want are mine.
Larry, would you consider maybe forming two ad hocs just to split it up?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, ad hoc committee number one, let's see. We'll do Commission on Aging.
How about Beta, because you're on that one,
Yeah,
and Parks and Rec?
Parks and Rec.
Just do the top 5 through Central Dispatch, do 1, and then Parks and Recreation to Airport minus the Road Commission be 2.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, except Commissioner Maxpower wants to be on
Yeah.
Commission on Aging and Parks and Rec, so you ought to put them on, make that as one ad hoc, I would think.
Well,
I'll sit on.
let's substitute Parks and Rec for EDC.
Thank you.
So we'll move EDC down to 2, Parks and Rec up to 1. Everybody agree with that?
EDC and Brownfield are basically the same, I think, aren't they?
No.
Well, no, they're two separate.
Two separate boards.
Yeah,
though.
that's okay, we can do that.
So I'll serve on the one that has the Airport Commission.
That'd be the,
Number 2.
number 2.
I'd like that one as well.
And I'd be willing to serve on number 2 since I'm on EDC.
Okay, so we got Inman, Richardson. Who else would like to be on 2? Jason?
You got Inman, Larry,
Inman, Richardson, and
yourself,
Gilman.
Jason, and Ross.
No,
right?
Larry was
Oh,
going
Larry
to,
was
Larry
on
was
two.
going to
I want to
serve.
be on 1.
One more, okay.
So, are you volunteering, Herb? Who wants to be
I'm
on?
on 1. I'll volunteer for 1.
Okay, we need one more for 2.
All right, I'll do
Oh,
2.
for 2?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll do whatever you need.
okay, we'll put Hensel there then.
Works for me.
Who's on
Okay, and then we got Lempool, Police, Max Mower. One more for number 1.
Come on, Rod.
Well, he's on 2.
It's all right.
He's on
Well, if he wants to do 1, I'll do 2.
I'll do 1.
You'll do,
I'll do 2 if he wants to
all
do
right.
1.
Who's on first?
That's on second. I don't know who's on third.
Okay,
Okay.
you're on 1.
Bonnie, did you get that?
I might have.
It's
on video, take
Yeah, please share.
I think he said, number 1 was Max Bauer, Fleece, Limco, and Hinchell. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And number 2 is Inman, Richardson, Gilman, and Wheelock.
Correct.
Perfect.
We got it.
No wonder you got elected.
Dickie escaped.
Okay.
And you're going to appoint a chair.
How'd you do that, Dick?
I'm cool.
I think they can appoint the chairman.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
appoint the
Yeah,
chair.
that's normally the way we do it.
Okay.
We
We
draw
don't need-
straws.
This
Yeah,
is your
whoever comes in
appointment,
last is chairman.
I think. Boards.
For chairman?
No, for the people on there.
Yeah.
Do we have
No,
to confirm it?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
Do we? No.
I don't think so.
No?
You do it.
Okay.
Perfect. Excuse me, it's
You're good.
All right. Anyway, Chris will be in contact, and some of them will act on right away, and other ones, like the road commission happened, no, that'll be later in the year or so. Okay, next item is, I'm going to defer this to Inman because he wants to defer it.
Oh, we already.
Yeah, we already deferred that as part of the agenda.
Did you?
To the board
All right.
meeting on the
Well, then we're
29th,
done with that.
to the last Wednesday of the month.
Any unfinished business?
We have
new business.
Yeah, no, I'm getting that. That's
I'm
new
sorry.
business.
He's getting there.
Okay, subject special assessment. Nikki,
Okay.
you're on.
The reason why I wanted to bring this up is that tomorrow morning, there's a special BPW meeting, and I suspect strongly that they're going to have a vote on the special assessment district for the county. And seeing as though that I'm your representative, and I don't know how you feel, I would like an opinion vote or whatever, but we've never taken a stand on whether we approve the special assessment district or not, and I will vote on behalf of the board, because left alone, I might vote the opposite of what everybody wants, so.
Larry?
Well, number one, just to clarify, it's my understanding we've got two legal opinions in the file somewhere that says the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners does not make the decision regarding the special assessment, and that is solely under the Board of Public Works. If you're looking for an advisory
That's what I'm
situation,
looking for.
then I would say, I'll just respond myself, and then I guess we'll just go around the room.
No, I want you to pass a motion.
No, we're not, I don't think we should be passing a motion. I think it's just an advisory discussion.
Yeah, but I think what Dick really wants is a consensus amongst the commissioners.
Yeah, what-
And I'll speak first. The constituents that I represent are absolutely opposed. And it was reiterated again to me Monday night very clearly, and Tuesday, last night. And a month ago, down in Paradise, South County does not want a special assessment, even if it's only $20. And their main fear, that I'm told, is once the assessment starts, it'll never end. We tried to explain to them, if the plant became sufficient, self-sufficient, it would end then, or at the end of 5 years. They're not buying it. They just don't want any part of it. And Monday night, they were talking lawsuits again. You know, the other townships are going to sue the G5, so I don't know. But, so my consensus would be that Dick ought to say no. Larry?
Well, I'm getting the exact read from the area that I represent, and again, I personally feel that if this was presented prior to the building of the plant, it probably could have gotten sold, but now it's being perceived as, you know, they've got to pay for somebody else's mistake, and that's, they feel very strongly about that. Acme's not taken an official position, but Whitewater, Union, and Fife Lake, the other three townships that I represent, have adamantly taken positions that they do not want me to vote if it came to my assessment, or if we came to any discussion at this board level, They asked me not to vote for it, and I will abide by their wishes as their representative. If it was, I know there's no such thing as a voluntary assessment fee, but I'd be the first one to write the check for $30 or $40 if I got a lower flowage cost. But in terms of a mandated assessment, I'm going to vote the way that my townships have asked me to vote, and that is no.
Herb?
I have a problem with this whole thing, because, I went to the presentation that the Board of Public Works had. I was very impressed with the numbers. I thought they laid the plan out extremely well. The problem is that if everybody votes against it, what's your alternative? The alternative is that we, the taxpayers of Grand Traverse County, are going to have to take out of our general fund and pay for it, or the townships individually. And I just think that that's wrong. I think the people that have sewer shouldn't have to pay a fee. And if you don't put this assessment on there, those of us that are on sewer are going to have to pay the bill. And I just really feel that after listening to the presentation from the Board of Public Works, that we have to go through and pass the special assessment. The Board of Public Works is going to have to do it. And I really feel strongly that we, as the County Board of Commissioners, should support what they're doing. And if we tell them, oh, no, we're not going to support you, then it's all falling down on us. It's coming right back here, because we're going to be paying the bill, along with our townships that are part of that are on the hook. And I really feel that we, as county commissioners, if we step in the way of them getting this taken care of, we're hampering their ability to get the job done that we told them a number of years ago. Get your act together, get your plan, give us the figures, and make it reasonable. They have done exactly what that we've told them to do. And now they're coming, now everybody's coming here and saying, hey, okay, we're at the point where if we don't get this special assessment, it's not going to make it. And we're not going to be able to pay the bond. We need the special assessment, and we need to be able to make sure that we don't hamper their ability to make sure that that happens.
Ross?
I've been advocating for a special assessment since I first got on the board here over 3.5 years ago. A lot of water over the dam since then, a lot of talk, a lot of suggestions, but when it gets right down to it, the only way the numbers work is a special assessment. I mean, I'm amazed that it's taken this long to get to that point. I know, I'm pretty sure that the Peninsula Township Board, over the objections of their supervisor, took a position and said, we need a special assessment to make this go. Certainly, people who are on sewers, both within the city of Traverse City and some in Peninsula Township, and a whole lot of folks in Garfield Township, don't think that they should have to pay to support that septic plant, which is the situation we're having now. The point is that assuming the Board of Public Works takes this action, and I sincerely hope they do, we are going to have to support them. As a board, we're going to have to support them to make it all work, because we're going to be asked to put some money up to help pay down those bonds, and we're going to have to, wait for a while for that money to come back. So, yes, I mean, this is the best resolution to the problem that's come down the pike, and we'd be fools not to go with it. And Larry, I understand what you're saying with, your folks down there are hated, but, somebody's got to go out and try to, convince these people that it's a much better idea than any of the other alternatives.
Chris?
First of all, the special assessment, the last number I heard, was less than $3 a month. The per gallon fee would drop, which in all likelihood would increase revenue at that plant. Commissioner Fleece, as far as the South County Township's boards not trusting that there would be a sunset to this, I have watched Garfield Township sunset 2 different tax issues, and they have lowered the taxes in Garfield Township twice. So when Chuck Korn tells me that it's going to sunset, he's demonstrated it's going to sunset. And I do believe him. And I believe that the Board of Public Works does not want this to go forever. I agree with Ross. I don't believe there is any other way. And I believe that Commissioner Lemkool is also correct. If we don't do this, people who have sewer are going to be paying part of that freight. And by not supporting the Board of Public Works, whatever action they choose to go, we are telling those 5 townships, we want you to write checks out of your general fund. And they're going to have to do something. They're going to have, whether it's cut deputies, Garfield Township funds a large number of our sheriff's department. I want to see that continue. We're talking less than $3 a month.
It's less than $2, actually, $20 a month.
Well, the last number I heard was around $30 a year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And that, and it's going to be around that number. I understand people don't like an additional tax. I don't like an additional tax. But there's no other way that I see. If somebody's got a better idea, I'm willing to hear it.
I sat on that finance committee, and I agree personally 100%. I don't understand why anybody wouldn't want to pay even $40 a year when they pay $50 and up a month for TV and that type stuff. But I've been told repeatedly, to the point I believe them, but I'm not going to be here after December 31st, so pretty hard to recall me. But I'll tell you what, if that assessment goes through, I think Larry's got a problem. I think they'll be after him, and any other commissioner that advocated for it, because they were talking recall, and they're serious. They're mad. And I wasn't elected, in my opinion, to represent my personal thoughts. I'd vote for that thing in a minute. But I was elected to represent my constituents, and that's what I do.
My constituents, many of them are on sewer.
You're lucky because you're on sewer, yeah. Jason?
Well, when we're talking about elected to represent, we're elected to represent our constituents' best interests. Now, if I was you, certainly, I'd vote against it, simply because your particular district is outside of, really, the G5. For me, I have to say, you go for it, you vote for it, because it's the thing that makes sense. Now, I have a lot of people in my district also who have septic tanks, and they don't want to get, what they call double dipped. But at the same time, what's best for them is not also having their township undergo financial hardship trying to make up for this mistake that was made years ago, frankly. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we're even talking about this, but this is probably the thing that makes the most sense, and especially, it's good to see the mix of the lowered rates so that it brings down the pumping cost, to a reasonable level. Obviously, other costs have gone up as well, but I think, frankly, the best solution is going to be the assessment. Not the most popular, but the best.
Larry?
Well,
Already heard from you.
that's right, but you're going to hear it again, but a different rationale. I'm in the same position that Mr. Fleece is in, and that is, there is no other present solution that's on before us that probably is the best solution, and that's a special assessment. The problem is, that wasn't what was represented when it was built. And when Rothschilds went around on behalf of the Board of Public Works and made the presentation to all the townships and made all their disclosures, and they adamantly said no. And it's like any other sewer and water project that the townships come and ask us to make payments or to have us bond for. If they ever become short, it's their responsibility. They guaranteed it. It was their project. We bonded it. And that's the way they view it. Can we be a partner in it and try to help with it? Yeah. And I thought the initial path that they were going in, and that was to have us help them participate in paying off the bond coming due in November, and not having the necessity for a special assessment, and waiting for the economy to turn around, and waiting for more growth and more homes to be built to create more revenue for the plant. And then at some point in the future, we begin to pay ourselves back, would be the solution that would be more palatable to all the constituents in the county, and rather than going for a special assessment. And I would be willing to commit on behalf of this board as a vote to depart some money out of our delinquent tax fund, at the part that we don't need to pay taxes, if it's $1 million or $1.2 million or whatever that number is, along with the townships paying their portion to pay off the bond, and not going with a special assessment. And someday we'll get paid back as growth occurs. So there is a way at some point in time to get paid back and not go with the special assessment. So I thought we were heading in the right direction with that, and obviously I had some conflicts with some meetings that occurred that turned the situation around and went the other way. But the only way I'm going to sit here and vote for this thing is the Board of Public Works has to present to the Board of Commissioners a resolution from all the townships saying this is the right direction to go, and I'll vote for it. Without that, I'm not going to vote for it.
You're not voting for anything. I'm asking for your opinion.
Okay.
And that's all.
All right. So we'll do at least you'll know our consensus.
Sonny? Well, we've been involved in this discussion now for about 7 years? Yep. We've had this discussion up, down, back and forth, any direction you possibly can. Bottom line is, treating septic is the right thing to do. It's the best for our environment, and it's the best for our community. We can have all kinds of discussions about whether the plant we have is the right plant, whether it was designed right, whether it was sized right. The fact is, it's the plant that we have. We have to figure out how we're going to pay for it, how we're going to operate it. I firmly believe that had the economy not done the change that it did, we wouldn't even be having these discussions. At the time this plant was built, we were looking at growth rate in this community of 17 to 18%, and all of a sudden we dropped to 4%. If we were still looking at a growth rate of 17%, we'd have more than enough volume in that plant that we would never have this discussion. But we don't. I've talked to a lot of people in my community. Sure, I hear the people that say they don't want to pay any more taxes. Absolutely, I know probably none of us want to pay more taxes. But at the same time, I do believe when people are properly educated, they understand what it costs to operate this plant, what it costs to build this plant, and what the environmental impact of not having this plant is, they support the plant. That being said, I think when we sit back and we look at this whole thing, we can all sit here and talk about our constituents. I believe I still sit here representing what's best for our community as a whole. And the best thing for our community as a whole is to treat the septic, and it's best for our environment, it's best for our community. We asked the Board of Public Works to put together a business plan, put together a financial plan. We sit on committees. We assigned commissioners to sit on committees. It's always come back to the same thing. We can meet our operational needs, but we're short of money to make the capital investment. The special assessment makes the capital investment, makes the payments on that bond issue. It's sunset for 5 years. You approve every special assessment district for 5 years. There is no special assessment district that automatically renews. And, you know, though I don't like to pay more taxes any more than anyone else does, I believe the best thing for us, for our community as a whole, is to support this plan, and the only way that that can happen is with the special assessment district.
Chuck, would you correct me, the special assessment goes for operation, not for bond payment, is that not correct?
Right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that was correct.
One or the other we're
Yeah.
covering. We're either covering the bond payment or we're covering the operations with the revenue of the plan.
The recall of the bonds and us, the county and the townships picking up the bonds, them individually will take and pay for the bonds, and then there is no money for operation. The special assessment has to be used for operation of the plan.
Yep.
I just had them backwards.
Yep.
Well,
you got it.
Oh, boy.
Not going to dodge this one, am I? No,
I'm marking things down here.
Sure. You know, my concern is the based ownership of the plant. BPW is taxing people to pay for something that is owned by 5 townships, one of which is not even in this county. If it was a countywide facility, it would make a little more sense to me, but it's, you know, even though they're using it, and by law have to use it, they have no ownership. I mean, other than the, you know, we're all linked together kind of community ownership. So I disagree with it on that basis, but I also disagree with raising taxes, so.
So, what did you say?
He's a no.
It'd be a real unique situation if I ever vote to raise taxes.
Well, I've said it a lot of times. I really commend the 5 townships for stepping up to the plate.
Right.
And building the plant when the county board of commissioners should have done that. It's like so many of you have said, it's a countywide problem. It's not the 5 townships, and so if they pass a special assessment and it gets paid off, they still own the plant. The way I see it, as soon as those bonds are callable, both sets of them, the county ought to take ownership of that plant and bail them guys out because it belongs and is needed by everybody in the county that's not on a sewer system. And I've said that many, many times, and like I said, I was elected to vote with my constituents want, it would have to be a no, Dick. I heard a guy ask Dick last night, for example, at Blair's meeting, and the guy got angry. He says, Commissioner Thomas, who are you representing? You know, the Board of Commissioners or your constituents? And the guy was really angry about it, you know. And Dick tried to explain it to him, but he wouldn't even listen.
He wasn't
Well,
interested.
you know, you've got a 4-4 right now, so clearly this has not been helpful. 5-4?
I've got
5-4.
5 there.
Me, Sonny, Jason, you, and Herb.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
I've got a 5.
The
5 yeses, that's,
one thing that I
want
would,
to take a vote, that's good enough for me.
I'd just like to make a comment, even though I'm, you know, again, what I think is best for my particular constituents is a yes, and frankly, as much as I disagree with the absolute necessity that was, the argument that was made for it for years, I think that the waste was being dealt with appropriately already, but this is a perfect example of democracy, of 3 wolves and a sheep deciding what to eat for dinner. The G5, you know, I'm sorry, but I just have to make that reference because that's exactly what this is. Unfortunately, it's going to be the best thing for my constituents and probably overall for the county, but it's going to be a hard thing for a lot of people to swallow, like it or not.
Sonny, I guess, you know, the point that I would like to get back to, and you alluded to it a little bit, in 2001, during the strategic planning session for Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners, the #1 priority was the treatment of septage. 2001, better than 10 years ago, the number one priority that the Board of Commissioners set forth was the treatment of septage. We never did a damn thing about it. These 5 townships stepped up and got the job done. Now what we need to do is help them make that work.
That is not true.
Dick, Sonny,
That's not true. Mr. Chairman?
just wait a minute.
I'd like to
Dick's got his
correct
hand up.
that. Go ahead.
This, at a meeting before that, the haulers came and they wanted a place to take
No, I
their
went to the drinking fountain.
sewage, their septic. And the process was started, and that was before I was on this board, I think. It was how long ago it was. But the county board turned the process down. They wouldn't do it. And that's when the 5 townships stepped up. And go ahead.
Here's what happened, is that we had purchased some property on Keystone Road in Brimley. I don't know if it's the corner.
No,
Hoke. And, no, not for the wastewater treatment plant, for the septic treatment plant. We had purchased that property for a solar process to develop, to do septage, all right? And we had put this proposal together, and we went to all the townships in Grand Traverse County and said, should we build this plant, and can you guarantee or pass a resolution that your residents would send their septage to our plant? And every township voted no.
Voted no?
Voted no. And that was when Dennis Aloya first came to our county in 2000, 2001. And then we said, okay, what do we do from here? And it was like a year later or 2 years later, the 5 townships said, okay, I don't know what happened in terms of if it was a change of boards or whatever, but they came together and said, I think we could put something together that, that the community can support. And, we gave it a try. And they turned us down, because I attended every one of those meetings, and they said they had absolute no interest in it. That's back when you could land apply and all this other stuff.
Well, I think Dick has his consensus. We've beat the living daylights out of this. I'm starting to get hoarse from talking about it.
One more thing, I think that probably the BPW is going to vote for this anyway. That would, over the last 32 years, I've learned how to count votes. And I think I got their votes pretty well counted, so it isn't going to matter. I just wanted to know what your opinions were so I could vote that way. That's all I was asking.
Thanks.
We have no...
Yeah, thank you.
We
Do we
have
want
no...
public comment on this?
No authority
Supervisors are
in telling
here.
them what to do. I was just looking for one vote. Thank you.
Jack or Chuck, either one of you
Or
like to
John?
comment on this? Or both?
Chuck wants to come up and tell you he's going to pay for the whole thing.
I appreciate the offer. It is in your township. As far as the ownership question that was raised earlier, we would gladly surrender our ownership. We've mentioned that in the past. The offer still stands. And I don't like the idea of a special assessment. I mean, I don't like the idea of a new tax. I like the idea of reducing taxes. I truly do. I'm going to tell you that right now, in the southern tier of townships, a lot of waste is leaving and going to Frankfurt or Mansalona, and at 12 cents a gallon, it's worth it for them to take it there. I think if we put a special assessment in place and reduce the rate to 6 cents, it's not going to be worth it to drive 30, 40 miles. And it's going to stay here, and the numbers are going to rise. And it's going to be a much healthier situation financially for the entire county, and better for everybody involved. So I appreciated hearing all of your opinions.
And I believe if you can lower it, you will.
I guarantee it.
I know.
Chuck, would you cover the holding tanks, how much money they're going to make by going to a special assessment? On a 10-year period, or a 10-time pump out, I think, that they were actually going to save money
John Alashkar is actually the chairman of our board.
The numbers man.
John was formerly with the board of...
Johnny Alashkar, 10-420 East Marion. I'd like to take an opportunity to recruit every one of you to sell the special assessment. We'll start with the options that BPW has. The option that Mr. Inman said, give the money to the plant from general fund and let them operate it, and if they can pay in the future, they will take the money, which is great. That will be the cheapest option for us. The second option is to raise the rates. And basic calculation, we have to raise the rates from 12 to 18 to break even. And if we raise them that much, then each person who is pumping will be costing them for 5-year pumping cycle, it will cost them $63 more per year. For a person who is pumping 8 times or 8 years cycle, it will cost them close to $39
per year.
So, per year. If you go to the person who is responsible and trying to maintain a good system, which is between 3 and 5, at 5 years, the cost will be 63. At 3 years, it will be 106. This is based on rate increase. Now, if I take that and turn it over special assessment, and the special assessment, if we advance the money to redeem the bond in November, at November 1st, at the rate of about 2% per year, and this is negotiated item, the special assessment will be about $22.50. At $23 per year special assessment, the person who is pumping their tank every 3 years will be saving, based on this year's rate, which is 12 cents, will be saving $1.66 per year. I mean, breaking even. But the saving based on the new rates to break even will be about $18.50 a year. For 5 years, it will be $5 a year saving. So you know that special assessment is saving really the person who is pumping at a regular basis per recommendation of EPA or whoever. However, the person who is pumping their tank every 8 years, it will cost them only $7 additional per year. They are paying $22.50 special assessment, but the net cost to them will be only $7. And that's because of the reduction in the rates from 12 to 6. And we have to maintain that 6-cent rate to balance our income. As somebody mentioned, that you cannot pay for the bond from special assessment. So we have to keep a certain level of charges to generate from the fees enough income to pay for the debt service. So whichever way I calculated it, it always came back, the special assessment is the least cost to property owners. And to some property owner, it will save them money. And to be honest with you, from day one, this concept was not presented right to the public. And we are planning on taking the show on the road.
Good.
Meeting with townships, meeting with public, advertising all those numbers to prove to everybody beyond doubt that special assessment is not a tax. It is a benefit to the citizenship.
Yep. I will tell you this, I haven't made a lot of the BPW meetings, but the one that I made that really impressed me was when you're doing the financial comparisons. One of the most impressive presentations I've ever seen, and for folks who might think that Gilman, the no-tax guy Gilman, would vote or support a special assessment is totally gone off track. I got to tell you, I appreciate the time and the effort you put into this, and frankly, your work is brilliant. And it's worthy to note that, this does put a little bit, like you said, $7, a year for the people who hardly ever pump. Who is that? You got to think of who that is. That is not, somebody who's living here full time probably too. Just little side note there. But the other thing is picking up those lost revenues from the trucks leaving the county. That makes up a lot of difference. See, people have to, they have to go, well, how can we make more money if everybody's going to save money? Well, there's a little bit on the edge of the county, and then there's a little bit of that. So, frankly, this is definitely for our constituents. This is a good deal. For our voters, this is an excellent deal.
Larry? I guess as a secondary thought that, I don't know for sure because Jack's here and he can probably answer the question, but, if Leelanau, because they're part of Leelanau County and they're also part of the Board of Public Works, the question is, does the Board of Public Works have the authority to, because they're a member of the Board of Public Works, to especially assess Elmwood Township residents, and if they don't, how can that be accomplished? And if it can't be accomplished, then the fairness question really is, in the long run, is off the table.
Chairman Fleisch, if I can answer that question, then I'd like to make a couple of comments myself.
Absolutely.
First off, thank you for the question, Commissioner Inman. If you recall, Elmwood Township was precluded from being on the Board of Public Works for a couple of years because of an interpretation of the Board of Public Works Act, and that gave rise to efforts by Mr. Childs and others to change the Board of Public Works Act, and ultimately that was changed. It was just a language. It's like one of those statutory construction. You can read it one of two ways, and so it was like a toss-up. Well, it got changed so that it was very clear. So Elmwood Township was allowed to participate on the Board of Public Works. I've been on the Board of Public Works since January of 2012. In light of that fact, questions have arisen in my mind throughout the course of the past 7 months as to, if we went forward with a special assessment district, what is Elmwood Township's position in this matter? Could Elmwood Township, could the Board of Public Works, in essence, establish a special assessment district that would carry over into Elmwood Township, another county? And I asked that question once point blank of our BPW attorney, and he gave us an answer which I thought at the time was rather clear, and subsequent to that time it was said that, well, maybe I was too hasty in my response. So the Board of Public Works asked Mr. Howard and Mr. Hammersley to take a look at this very question of whether or not, in their esteemed opinion, a special assessment district could be assessed in another county, in this case Elmwood Township. And the answer came back in the affirmative, because the Board of Public Works carries and covers Elmwood Township in another county, and because Elmwood Township is now on the Board of Public Works, that the Board of Public Works could establish a special assessment district legally, in their opinion, and I agree with it, and I think our township attorney agrees with it. And so, in answer to Mr. Inman's question, I would expect that if the Board of Public Works, acting with the concurrence of their township boards, were to establish a special assessment district, that it could apply to Elmwood Township, and that it would be enforceable. Now, if I can just answer a couple of other questions. I happen to agree with Mr. Gilman. It's a democracy in progress. If you had been at our meeting today, Mr. Gilman, you would have seen that let's just say that we were not of one accord. That would be putting it mildly. Nobody likes the idea of a special assessment district. I personally am on the record for several years as being in favor of a special assessment district. Why? Because it's a user pay system. If the townships and the county, and we are partners in this, whether you like it or not, if the townships and the county have to utilize general fund dollars to basically subsidize the plant, then in fact, those people that are on sewer are being taxed twice. When we had a shortfall in our sewer fund, we didn't go to the people on septic and say, everybody's got to kick in to get our sewer system, our sewer balance back to an acceptable level. That was all borne by the people in the sewer district, as you would expect. And once we got our reserves up to a certain point, and I think we're two examples of townships that actually try and run our townships like businesses. And if we all ran them like businesses, tried to do anyway, I think we'd be doing better things. Once we got our reserve balances, our sewer balance to an acceptable level, we actually reduced our fees from $84 a quarter to $69 a quarter, and now we're looking to reduce them again. So the special assessment district is an up to amount. Like every one of you, we all take our jobs very, very seriously. We ought to, or we shouldn't be sitting where we're sitting. So I don't want to charge anyone or have anyone pay a single penny more than they have to pay. That's the God's honest truth. But this particular facility, I agree with Mr. Wheelock, and I thank you for saying what you did, sir. It is what it is. We can rehash whether it should have been built a certain way. We can forget about the fact that the wall falls down. There'll be an article in the paper tomorrow, and the wall will probably be mentioned again, as if we don't know that 7 years later. But it is what it is. We are where we are. We either kick the can down the road, or we finally come to grips with the fact that we have a problem. But we also have a benefit. We have a plant that is actually doing what it was proposed to have done. It is benefiting the community. It is certainly helping to keep our water cleaner. The effluent is actually cleaner than the water that's already in Boardman Lake. And the bottom line is that we have to either work together or this thing just isn't going to work at all. The idea of the special assessment, I can understand what everyone is saying regarding the fact that many of your constituents don't wish for a special assessment to be instituted. I can't say for sure how Elmwood Township feels. 6 of the 7 people on our board are on septic. I'm the only one on sewer. All right? But I think I'm getting pretty good at counting heads too, Mr. Thomas, and I think that I think there's a majority of people on that board who know that by voting yes for a special assessment district, they are then empowering me to convey that vote to the Board of Public Works. I would dare say the majority of them, I'll predict, would support a special assessment because it's a user pay. It makes abundant sense. It is unfortunate. I totally understand the rationale that septic tank owners now are being asked to basically subsidize for a problem that was not of their creation. Totally understand that. Totally understand it. But the problem is here. What do we do about it? The bottom line is that if the special assessment district isn't set up, then we don't even get to call the bonds, because my concern is 2 things are on the table here. Special assessment district, which would cover operational costs, repairs and improvements, and then you have the treatment costs of 6 cents a gallon or 19 cents a gallon, plus the holding tanks, which then would serve as the mechanism whereby if we were to come to an agreement about calling the bonds, that's how those bonds, those payments would come back to the jurisdictions. So we have 2 issues here. We need a special assessment district to cover the operational costs of repairs and the improvements, and we have to have sufficient funds available to pay back the jurisdictions, the county and the 5 townships, their monies that they're willing to put forward in calling the bonds to save money. The 2 don't work. This system doesn't work unless we have both. I personally favored, I think Commissioner Max Bauer favored, I think Chairman Alashkar favored running this special assessment district idea up the flagpole before we go to call the bonds. We need to have a mechanism in place that guarantees that the money's going to be there to make the payments back to the 5 jurisdictions in the county. Without that, it's a repayment schedule that exists on paper but really doesn't have anything backing it up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
I
Thanks,
found out
guys.
everything.
Thanks,
I needed
guys.
to know.
Thank you.
Besides, old people gotta get home and get to bed so they can get back in the morning.
Oh, we're not done yet.
We're not done.
I know we're not done.
Okay, next item on the, you have your consensus, Dick, count?
Yep.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is second public comment.
Here, no.
Do we have anybody in the public wishing to comment on anything? Apparently not. Commissioner committee reports. Chris?
I went to the Commission on Aging Program Committee today. Commission on Aging Program Committee last month recommended to the full Commission on Aging Board to eliminate the foot care clinics as a cost-saving measure. The full board sent it back to committee for discussion. The committee did its due diligence and once again unanimously voted to eliminate the foot care clinics. Not in-home care, not in-home foot care, but the foot care clinics. That will affect 286 clients. Now, I want to explain to this board some of the reason that the committee used in reaching their decision. They did speak with podiatrists, and it is a service that is covered by Medicare. It's also covered by Medicaid, and the chairman of the acting chairman today of the program committee, Shirley Zarafa, did some research and found CHAPS also covers this. So this service is not going away. It's just going away from under the Commission on Aging wing, I guess you would, under their services. Thank you. Thank you. I did speak to a podiatrist myself because I wanted to do due diligence before I vote on the committee's recommendation, which will come to the full board at our next Commission on Aging board meeting. And he told me that, you know, this kind of care really does need to be performed by a physician in a sterile environment. The doctor can pick up other problems that may exist. And he also said that there are 9 podiatrists here in Traverse City. And it would be absolutely no problem whatsoever for those 9 podiatrists, in his opinion, to add 286 clients. Again, the Commission on Aging Board is still going to do in-home care for those people who are homebound and cannot get out. But I did want you to all know that this was a discussion, and I do have a foot care program fact sheet if anybody wants to see it. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I know a lot of people have heard that there's been a mileage discrepancy, I guess, from Leelanau County's Commission on Aging. Well, some of the Commission on Aging board members went to the 7 and 4 news site, and there on the 7 and 4 web news site was Grand Traverse County's Commission on Aging sign with this story. I want everybody to know that Grand Traverse County's Commission on Aging has checks and balances in place. This did not occur in Grand Traverse County, and anyone who went to that website who saw that and was under that impression, that is not the case. We watch our pennies, like hawks. And as Georgia Durga said, in the 7 and 4 News Report, by the way, she was interviewed, that's not county money, that's not their money, that's taxpayer money, and that's the way the Commission on Aging Board views those dollars. That was not Grand Traverse County. So I wanted to mention that.
Jason?
I've got a couple of reports. East Bay Township passed a sign resolution for political signs on Election Day. They're going to make sure, it's kind of a long story, but essentially it's just a statement that there will be no signs on county property or on township property at election times. They also approached the possibility of soliciting a $7,500 grant from the Northwest COG and for more planning and what have you, to look at grand vision-y kind of stuff for the village center. A motion was made, but nobody seconded it, so they did not seek out that grant. And as far as Peninsula Township goes, it was an interesting meeting yesterday. There's a presentation for a new cell tower that it was suggested AT&T is looking to put a new cell tower up in a dead spot area at the base of the peninsula, and they had identified fire station number 2 as a potential location. The board was not entirely all there with it. They were not entirely excited about it because, of course, cell towers are cell towers and they stick up and they're not exactly the prettiest things in the world to some people. And of course, the board was defending its visual environment. The gentleman did something who was making the presentation from AT&T, did something that I kind of thought took a couple of the board members off guard a little, and in fact I was a little surprised that he did it. He said, well, the Telecommunications Act allows us to put it here and pretty much there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, he didn't say it in that way, but he said it in that way. I mean, the implication was clear, and at least one of the board members certainly mentioned that he didn't like being threatened, but anyhow, I just thought I'd mention that. So I'm not sure exactly what the Telecommunications Act, how it speaks to that, but it was interesting.
Larry? Just an opportunity to clarify Commissioner Gilman's report. The issue regarding the money that East Bay had applied for, that was not Northwest Michigan Council of Government money. That money is Kellogg Foundation money, and it's called the Community Buildings Grant. Community Building Grants, solely paid for by the Kellogg Foundation, and they've asked us to be a fiscal agent. If a community wants to apply for it, we could be the fiscal agent and just transfer the money back from them to them. It can be for any purpose. It is not tied to the Grand Vision or any other mechanisms that involve property right issues. It can be for any particular purpose. Other communities have used it for improvements to wastewater treatment plants, improvements to septic treatment plants, to whatever the community need is. They can apply for this Kellogg money through the foundation. So I just want to clarify that this is not council government money, nor are we steering the boat on this particular issue.
Anyone else?
Just notices wellness luncheon Friday 11 to 2, I believe, at the Civic Center.
Everybody that's on the agenda or on the schedule should have gotten a thing that tells you when you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do.
Notices? Did anyone notice my trophy?
No, we're not even talking about that.
She beat them all.
Congratulations, Chris.
Yeah.
I won shuffleboard.
Congratulations. Just a community reminder, the Buckley Old Engine Show is in motion starting tomorrow through the weekend.
as evidenced by my green
Yes.
wristband.
And Commissioner Felice has a demonstration out there, and the Henschel family has one as well.
But in reality, if you want to see the spirit of Traverse City, they'll have it on display. It's not running this year, but next year you can ride it. And it's a good time, $10 for 4 days, pretty cheap entertainment. Dave?
Chris Kramer asked me to remind all of you that the Parks and Rec meeting is not tomorrow, it is on August 23rd.
The Parks and Rec meeting? Okay, thank you. Any other announcements or notices?
Spirit of Traverse City is now known as the Buckley Express.
Next item is closed session. We do have a reason for closed session tonight.
Mr. Chairman?
Litigation update by Chris Cook, the attorney.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we go into closed session regarding the Jetter litigation case. Carlson versus Jetter. Support.
It's been moved and supported to go into closed session. Everybody in favor? Aye.
Aye. And we don't roll call.
Roll call.
And there will not be to my knowledge, a determination or a vote coming out.
Yeah, there won't be a vote as a result of the
Is the
meeting.
lawyer still here?
Commissioner
I'm gonna go
Richardson?
get him, he's
Yes.
gotta be here somewhere.
Lemkool?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Henman?
Yep.
Gilman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Please.
Yes.
All right, if we can go in the other room and I'll go find them.
Bring a pizza.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to come out of closed session.
Support. All together now.
Been moved and supported to come out of session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Night, everybody.